Hey friends, if you're looking for quick tips to help you jumpstart your week, you are in the right place. I'm Lori Palau, host of the popular weekly podcast Organized Life, founder of Simply Be Organized, and every Monday I am here to bring you a quick organizing tip in under 15 minutes. All you have to do is click the subscribe or follow button wherever you're listening, and let's get started. Everybody, and welcome to today's tip of the week. I'm your host, Lori Palau. So happy that you're here. We are moving right along in our series on family organization tips. And so far, we've talked about command centers, we've talked about family meetings. And today's topic is one that, again, a lot of like side eyes, a lot of pushback about, a lot of eye rolls, and it all has to do with teaching versus doing. And essentially, let me go back a step. When my kids were young, it was really important for me that I taught them some basic skills because I wanted them to, as I always said, grow up to be functioning members of society. And so, what did that mean? That meant that I wanted them to be able to know how to do some basic household things. And so, it was always just something that we did, things like making the bed and clearing their dishes and when they got old enough, like doing their laundry. Like these were just things that we as a family unit just incorporated into our house and our way of doing things. And I would teach them how to do things. Now, there are certain things that in hindsight, I wish I had taught them more and that they didn't really necessarily grow up knowing. Like, for example, Logan said to me, "Hey, I wish you had taught me to cook more." Well, I cooked all the time. I love to cook, but I oftentimes liked to cook by myself because I found it relaxing and enjoyable. So I would go, "Okay, guys, go play, and I'm going to make dinner," as opposed to incorporating them into the process. Now, listen, I get it. There are times where you're like, "I just got to do it. I got to get it done. I don't have time for this. This is not necessarily a teachable moment." However, I think we have to carve out time to find those teachable moments, find those areas that we really want our kids to grow up being empowered to do, and not only knowing the tactical skill of how to do it, but also the time management skill of how do I fit this in with all the other things that I'm doing. Again, a couple of the things I made a list of, I think it's maybe 7 or 8 things that I think are kind of critical for people to teach their kids how to do. And so I'm going to run through them. First of all, the bed. We talked about this. I think it was my very first tip of the week episode is about making your bed every day. I think it's really important. I know there's different schools of thought. I'm a believer that you start with a small little win and then you end the day knowing that like you had this task completed. So it's something that there's very rarely an excuse for you to not be able to just make your bed. And if your bed is too complicated to make, we need to find a simpler system. That was also something that I went through when I was younger. I had this very complicated bed, and then I had a time where the bed was against the wall and it made it really difficult for the kids. And so we moved the bed around so that it made it easier. So I think you just have to kind of play around with how can I make this really simple? It should take less than 2 minutes to make a bed. I've timed it. That is one of the geeky things that I've done. And so if you cannot make your bed in under 2 minutes, we need to find a simpler system for you to be able to make that happen. So I think bed making is something that everybody in the family should do. I feel very strongly about that. So that is something that I think you can teach your kids to do, even if it means they're just pulling the covers up, right? They don't have to know how to necessarily make a hospital corner when they're 3 years old, but they can know that when I get out of my bed, I take the covers and I straighten them out. So that's something that they totally can do. The second thing is toys. Now, again, we've done lots of episodes on toys. I always believe that it's really important for the kids to be involved in the cleanup process. When they're babies, obviously that's not going to happen. But as soon as they get to be like 2, 3 years old, they can pick the book up and put it on the shelf. They can pick up the toy and put it in the bin. Like if the system is simple, can't speak. If the system is simple, then it should not be complicated for them to be able to maintain it. Once your kids go to preschool, or a lot of your kids that are in daycare, they know where their stuff goes. That they are responsible for putting things away, getting things out. So if the earlier you can set that up in your own home and empower your kids to be able to do even the basic steps that they can then build on as they get older and the tasks become more sophisticated, that's really what we're trying to do at this point. We're just trying to get them to understand the basic principles of things come out, things go back, things have a home. This is where this lives, this is where that lives. So, bed, toys. Third one is dishes. Again, when my kids were younger, I set up their station in our island where it was at their level. So even though that was prime real estate for me to store other things, it was really important for me to allow my kids to come in there and get their stuff. So I created a little station on a pullout inside my island. If you don't have that, it could be on a shelf, wherever it is, but having them have a space that they can go and access is really, really key to getting them involved in the process. And then also having them clear the dish. When you're done, you take your dish, and even if they can't reach the sink, bringing it over to you or just corralling it, whatever it looks like in your family, getting them involved to knowing that there is a follow through, that you don't just get up from the table and walk away. And that's really what we're trying to do, is we're trying to establish some boundaries for them to understand and be aware that there is another step in the process after we leave the table. Next one, laundry. Love talking about laundry. I don't like doing laundry. Josh loves doing laundry. I will do laundry because it is like one of those necessary evils. But the earlier you can get your kids involved in the process, I was just having this conversation with a client the other day, and our kids are like 2 and 4. If you can even get them to take the clothes and put them in the basket, clothes in the hamper, clothes from the hamper into the laundry basket. Just basic little steps. You are teaching them. Again, it's laying that foundation, laying that groundwork for them to then, as they get older, we know that lights go here, darks go here. And then eventually, this is where this goes into the washing machine. This is how the washing machine works. When it's done, we move this from the washing machine to the dryer, or this gets hung up. This is how we fold. You get kids folding things like towels, very basic things, really early on. And I know that a lot of times parents are doing laundry late at night or when the kids aren't around. But I think it's really important to try to let them see like what's like how the sausage is made a little bit, because it goes back to my whole point with Logan saying to me I never taught her to cook. I was doing it, and I was just thinking more of like, just give me 5 minutes of peace and I'm going to do it, without thinking about, oh, I should really be teaching her how to make whatever I'm making, chicken, rice and beans, whatever it was. They know how to make basic things, but like the actual meals, I wasn't necessarily being as intentional as I could have been on a day to day, right? I made a lot of things, and she felt like she went to school and wasn't as prepared as she wanted to be. And I didn't even realize it. Like, I didn't do it intentionally. It was just something I was thinking about all these other more, I don't want to say more practical chores, because cooking certainly is practical, but it just wasn't even on my radar. So for most parents, they're not doing it because they don't want to. It's just something that they're not even thinking of. So making somehow figuring out how you can incorporate this so that the kids have exposure to it, getting a little bit of exposure to the task is the first step. Um, and again, talked about cooking. The next one would be cleaning, which we talked about cleaning up the dishes, but depending on what that looks like in your home, whether you're mopping or dusting or vacuuming, all of these, or taking out the trash, all of the different aspects of cleaning. And we're going to do a whole episode next week about chores, but just all of the different moving parts of your house, getting the kids involved. So maybe they walk with you. Maybe they can't carry the trash to the curb, but maybe they just get in the habit of walking outside with you as you take the trash out. You are, by doing that, you're teaching them this is the process. This is what we do. And so even though they aren't at a point where they can do it on their own, they're still getting that exposure. So I think that's really important. And then the last thing I want to say is just more of a big, broad spectrum, which is a couple of different things that the three biggest areas I would say that people struggle is avoid jumping in to do it, because we all know that we've got experience. We could do it faster. We could do it quicker. We could probably do it like with less pushback. Avoid that urge, right? You're playing a long game here, people. So avoid jumping in to do it. The second thing is be patient. It's very frustrating when you're trying to teach anybody something new. Think about when you're trying to learn something new, and you want to have patience, and you could set a certain amount of time. But if you notice that you're feeling really stressed or you're in a rush, like the time to teach them isn't as you're trying to get out the door, right? Do this on a weekend, do this on an evening when you don't have 10 other extracurricular activities. Try to do these teachable moments when you have more runway, when you have more margin in your schedule. Because if you're already stressed because you know that you're on a tight time schedule, it's really just going to like exacerbate the situation and make everybody really on edge. And it's probably going to make your kids not want to do it or not want to try it. And so we want to encourage them. That's the third thing, is we really want to try to encourage our kids to do this and know that there is a learning curve. You're not going to be able to fold things perfectly right out, out of the gate. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to, even when you're cleaning up, you're going to miss something. You're not going to make the bed perfectly. It's not about perfection. That's not what we're going after right now. We're going after developing these healthy habits, healthy strategies, the routines, and letting them have some buy-in to what is happening inside the home, how the house functions. And so really just encouraging them and letting them know that what they're doing matters and their contribution matters is going to go a long, long way. So anyway, I know this was a really long tip of the week, but I just felt it was really important. Again, the overarching goal is we want to teach versus do for our kids. And it's never too late. So if you're sitting there going, oh crap, my kids are 12 and I haven't had them do anything, just start now, right? Best time to start is now. So just get in there and do it. And hey, this works for spouses too, guys, not just kids. We want to teach everybody in our home to be able to do all of the things. So if you have any other questions, you know where to find me. Of course, we'll be dropping a link in the show notes for my calendar. If you're interested in booking a strategy call with me, I'll be back next week. Until then, I'm Lori Plow. Peace out. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, please spread the love and share it with your friends. And if this is your first time joining us, make sure to click the subscribe button wherever you are listening so you never miss an episode. And while you're there, please leave us a review so other people know that our show is worth the listen. You can also find us on YouTube and Instagram at This Organized Life Podcast. And if you'd like to connect with us, you can head on over to our website at simply the letter B like boy organized.com, which is filled with tons of resources, including free downloads, checklists, links to our amazing organizing partners, and all of our digital offerings. I'll see you next week for another episode of This Organized Life.